Anita comes in with intraday numbers.
Yes, good afternoon, Nini.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, okay, but first, before the intraday numbers, we had another downturn on the market on Tuesday, at the close of Tuesday's trading session. Okay, so, but let's get on with the intraday numbers. Intraday, the market is still oscillating in between profit-taking and bargain hunting, as is always with the market activity, particularly on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where we see a 0.03% uptick, and this is coming from the Tuesday's close, which was a 0.07% downturn, and also picking up from Monday, which we also saw a downturn there. Now moving to the South Africa. For South Africa, before we flipped over, okay, 0.26%, about 0.25% drop for the South African stock market at intraday. Now, on the other side of the market, for the EGX, we saw a profit-taking, a deep impact of profit-taking there, 1.34% pullback on that market. That's the EGX 30. We see 26,610.99 points for that index. And then the Kenya Stock Exchange on Tuesday, 0.21% in the green. That's it for those markets. And now let's take a deeper perspective into Nigeria's stock market, where we see coming out of the two-day strike by the NLC, we saw the impact of no activity there, but the market was open. But at the same time, we saw about a 141 billion loss. Now let's talk to Richard Akimoladu, equity trader at CSL Stockbrokers, to give us more details about the negative start of the market continuing, but we'll know whether this number is continuing at intraday. Thank you for joining us, Richard.
Thank you for having me, Anita.
Okay. Now, we've had two back-to-back declines on the Nigerian stock market, but at the moment, how is the market performing at the third day of June? How's the intraday numbers as we speak?
Okay, thank you. Currently, the market is down. I guess that number you posted was early in the morning, but now the market is down by 0.08%. We saw contributing to that. We saw that some names are down, but Oando is down currently. Wapik is down, and some other names that I don't want to mention. So currently, the market is actually down.
Okay, now Richard, so that takes me to my second question with you. Nigeria's banking sector is still in the news at this time. First, coming from that Heritage Bank, we know Heritage Bank is not quoted on Nigerian Stock Exchange, but now with the news overnight that came from the central bank that it is not revoking any license, which is contrary to a report alleging that the CBN will be revoking 3 bank licenses. So how is the banking counter of the NGX performing at the moment?
So the NGS banking is equally down. It's currently down by about 0.29%. As we mentioned, Heritage is not listed, and going by the CBN pronouncement that no other further license will be withdrawn from the banking sector. So I'm not sure that I believe that the listed banks are actually strong, and I believe that CBN keep checking their books and their numbers quarter on quarter. I believe we should not expect further license revocation from any listed bank for now. And as you know, that all of them are gearing up for this recapitalization exercise that's coming up soon. A lot of them are actually putting papers together actually to come to the market to raise funds to actually support their business going forward. So there's nothing to worry about the listed banks. I believe they are strong, and CBN has actually issued a statement.
Okay, so Richard, in 30 seconds, what's your expectation for the market's close for midweek trading session?
We are like an hour to the end of the market for today, and as I've mentioned earlier, that the market is currently down. I believe that the market is going to close in this close down today because there's no positive news that can actually change the tempo of the market. Though it's just the market is just slightly down, and we might likely close at this territory.
Okay, Richard, I think we'll leave it there for our markets, and do hope that although if the market closes bearish or bullish, it favors some investors and vice versa. Well, we thank you so much for your analysis on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Also, Richard Akimoladu, equity trader with CSL Stockbrokers, with the market numbers at intraday. Now, let's move over to Middle East, where we see it's kind of a mixed trading for there at intraday. Abu Dhabi 0.26% in the green, while the Dubai FM 0.38%. We see some bargain hunting and profit taking, which is always the language of the market for investors. And on the other side of the market, we see Saudi Arabia 0.23% in the red. That's another day of downturn at intraday, but then market numbers would always have a final close, which may be different from this. And for the Qatari Stock Exchange, we see 0.08% in the green for that market intraday. So that's it for the market for the Middle Eastern market. And now over to the world's biggest economy, the United States of America. Obviously, the stock futures, they're rising, and this is coming ahead of a private payrolls report, which is due to be out sometime around in a couple of hours from now in Nigerian time. For the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it was 0.12%. As you can see on your board there, the S&P 500, 0.18%, and NASDAQ, 0.43%. Now, what to expect from the market? The market is monitoring data on services and non-manufacturing purchasing numbers, which is due out today. And then attention will also be focused on the weekly job claims numbers, which will be out on Thursday, and the all-important May jobs report due out on Friday. But for more details on the trading session, for the close of Tuesday's trading session, let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market was a bit up and down on Tuesday, as the Dow Jones was barely up at 0.15%, the S&P 500 up at 0.36%. The heavy tech NASDAQ also showed a barely up day, closing at 0.17%. It is clear that investors are watching to see what will happen over the next days and weeks ahead, as the economic data is showing a cooling off of the job market. This has some concern for many investors, as this could mean some instability in the U.S. economy. Even though there's still much hope that interest rate cuts will happen before the end of 2024, many investors are still questioning and wondering when the interest rate cuts will happen. This has many watching to see what will happen in the next weeks and days ahead, as it's been quite a challenge for the U.S. stock market over the past few weeks.
Washington correspondent Maria Bird with the market numbers on Wall Street for Tuesday. And finally, on the, first, before we go to the Asian market, let's talk about what led the Asian market into a mixed session, mostly positive. We saw, we've been talking about this all over the world, right here in Nigeria. We also, our president also congratulated the India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, for his slim election victory. And we saw the Bombay Stock Exchange leading the Asian markets for the close of Wednesday's trading session. It was up by 2.78%. That's for the Bombay Stock Exchange Index, or what they call the Sensex, the sensitivity index, which gauges the market's performance. So that was it for the market. Now, for the broader side of the Asian market, we see both the Nikkei was in the red, 0.89%. The South Korea's Kospi up 1.03%, while the Hang Seng Index of Hong Kong, 0.10% in the red. And on the other side of the market, although we don't have that numbers, we also saw Australia's S&P 500, S&P 200 closing 0.41% higher at 7,759.40 points, and this is coming after the country's first quarter gross domestic product, that's the GDP, came in at 1.1% year on year, which is slightly below the Reuters poll estimate of 1.2%. So that's it for all the markets that we track for Wednesday.
Yeah, interesting how the India election has fed into sentiment in Asia. Really interesting there. But thank you so much, Anita.
Pleasure.